How is it going, everyone, and welcome back. First of all, I wanted to thank you all for the support that the other video got. I wasn't expecting it to blow up so quickly the way it did. Today we'll be covering the rest of the Trench Crusade PDF, aside of some other units I found scouring in other places. For a quick recap, Trench Crusade takes place on an alternate timeline when, during the time of the First Crusade, the Templar Knights took Jerusalem and were tempted by a demonic entity to open a portal to hell, changing history forever. Currently, we're in the time of World War I, and the forces of humanity try to fend off the demons any way they can. On the last video we went through some of the forces of the church. Today we'll be reviewing another faction, the Sultanate of Iron. So without further ado, let's get right into it. From the side of the Middle East, when the infidels opened the gates of Jahannam, releasing the Gog and Magog upon those who believe, it seemed that all was lost and Shaitan would emerge victorious. But the creator of the universe came to the aid of the faithful, and, as had been written, the great iron wall of Du al-Qarnayn manifested itself in the lands ruled by the Sultan of Rum. A massive pilgrimage by the Islamic world came to this place, from Africa, Asia and Europe, being closely pursued by the slaves of Shaitan. Later, the gates were shuttered, and the great Sultanate of the two horns that pierce the sky was erected. Their efforts are mainly focused on reinforcing the wall's defenses, so that no heretics would make a breach on its surface. And when things get a little complicated, to put it simple, the Sultan would send chimeras created with alchemy and all types of esoteric artillery to keep them out of their border. Occasionally, small scouting groups are sent out to collect artifacts from the ancient caliphates, and even though they've come to good terms with the church, they are not too fond on the Templars, since they were the ones who unleashed hell on earth, so their presence is not really allowed on their territories. This time we'll go unit by unit on this faction. Starting with the elite forces of the Sultan are the Janissaries. These are captured from the desolate eastern and northern domains outside of the wall. They are spiritually and psychologically conditioned to be completely and faithfully loyal to the Sultan. Then, through other esoteric means, the alchemists and blinded thaumaturges enhance them with potent elixirs and arm them with rifles and armor synthesized from the same metal as the iron wall, perfected to be the ultimate bodyguard. Thaumaturge, by the way, is a fancy word to say mage. But of course, the Sultanate not only utilizes human warriors to fend off the heretics. In the depths of the Golden Gardens of Damascus lies the vast laboratories and metaphysical factories of the alchemists, who, by mysterious Jabirian processes, they are capable of creating artificial life, producing all kinds of strange and wonderful automaton beasts, mainly to entertain the masses and adorn the Sultan's gardens. But here, hidden behind layer and layer in the most secret sanctums, is where the fierce lion of Jabir is made. Although most of these bear a close resemblance to the Savannah Hunter, each of these alchemical constructs varies in appearance, according to the alchemist who creates them. But even after mastering the teachings of the forbidden books of Solomon, the creation of one of these creatures is incredibly difficult, and many lose their lives when their experiments run out of control. However, they're still on a desperate demand by the armies of the Sultanate. Due to these unavoidable imperfections, the existence of this creature is incredibly painful, and even more tragic are those cases of some lions created with a semblance of human intelligence. They function as a front line and vanguard, perhaps with the intention of making their existence quick. Just imagine what it must feel like to be in front of one of these creatures, ignoring the fact that in this world you've definitely seen worse. You hear a bestial roar in the distance, and among the ranks of the enemy, you manage to see some white beast of 3 meters of length standing on 2 legs with swollen arms, covered in alchemical circles, cladded on brass plates, and with a primal anger on their eyes. And speaking of the lesser key of Solomon, among the ranks of the Sultanate, we have the alchemist. To whoever that wishes to be part of the order, the door is always open, but the admission process is far from easy. This includes studying the Jabirian corpus, translating the keys of Solomon and relearning the primeval science. Then, after 7 years of training under the scrutiny of the High Alchemist, they're faced with 3 trials. The first is to create an alchemical armor. Despite being made of brass, the resistance of these pieces is exceptional, making the user invulnerable to the demonic influences. The second trial is to create a homunculi, a semi-human construct capable of changing the consistency of their bodies, withstand extreme temperatures and the vapors of dangerous experiments. This will be the personal assistant of the alchemist, and the third trial is to open up their third eye, obtaining the expanded knowledge of the material plane. In case of failing any of the last two, well, let's just say that the fate of these scholars is worse than death, and filled with an eternal agony if they're not put down on time. In case they are even allowed to die, of course. If the Sultanate uses alchemists as combat mages, guess who they use as their field assassins? None other than the Hashashins, the same guys of Assassin's Creed. Renowned warriors of the mystical arts and ruthless on their work. We'll still call them assassins to make it simple. Atop a forbidding mountain broods an onyx fortress, Alamut the Unconquerable, guarding ancient secrets by its mysterious magicians, is where Rashid ad-Din Sinan repelled the heretical hordes, and it is said that to this day, the old man of the mountain still holds his court after more than 800 years. Despite the fact that the order had been branded as heretical for many in the lands of the Sultan, they have come to an agreement, and now it is even a necessity to include one of his supreme assassins in their ranks. They are basically infiltrators. They go behind enemy lines, eliminating high-priority targets and disappearing in a few heartbeats. They are even capable of breaking the laws of physics. It is said that they can appear in two places at the same time, take down a target and go back to a safe position. These assassins go through a brutal training, raised in the depth of Alamut, drinking small amounts of poison from a young age, becoming more and more resistant to these toxins as generations pass. When a member of the assassins die, their blood is extracted and the iron melted to be used on their blades, etching it with their toxins, and they use an absurdly powerful poison that necroses the skin just by its mere contact, called the Cup of Death. Then we have the Azebs. These are the simplest units of the Sultan's forces. They're just single men without family that, let's be clear, they're forced to serve in the efforts to fight off hell. They are sent in company of larger units on expeditions to no man's land. Most of them never come back alive, and the few who do are mentally damaged beyond repair. But for those few fortunate who make it, fame and riches wait for them at home before being sent to another expedition. These expeditions are led by the Yuzbasi captains. Some of them used to be Janissaries, enhanced by the alchemical arts to nullify the fear in them. They lead the teams in charge of collecting artifacts from the ruins of Levant and to eliminate nobles from the east who turned their backs on God. Shielded with an armor of meteoric iron and wielding weapons carried by the ancient sultanates, those who gain the favor of the ruler of the land are honored with Damascus steel armory in addition to creatures created by the alchemists as companions. As a fun fact, the mention of meteoric iron on the armor may have something to do with the purity of the material and how good the alchemical processes may react with it, due to the molecular structure of the meteoric iron being different. Even so, to maintain this level of protection on the wall of iron, conventional artillery is very heavy and unpractical. For that, the Sultanate and the Jabirian laboratories have perfected the brazen bull, also known just as Boga, a monster with immense power and vitality, capable of tearing apart a demon by sheer force. The Sultan's armorers equip them with heavy artillery that even the superhuman Janissaries cannot lift, let alone use in battle, like flame cannons and volley guns, protected by ornamented brass, hardened scales, and tons of artifacts. Beyond the iron wall, the Boga is a terrifying sight, a single-minded walking bulwark, a tower and shield, disrupting enemy lines if they are not dealt with in time. Okay, unfortunately that's all there is on the PDF. There is also another faction I found information on Reddit. It is called the Metamorphosis Church, and for the looks of it, with the crustacean and almost Bloodborne-like aesthetic of these things, they might have something to do with the cult of the Black Grail. It is said that they use their influence to corrupt sites of faith and transform its followers into these monstrosities to worship hell. Although I'm not sure why Beelzebub would use this approach with the Black Grail, so they might be something entirely unrelated. I also found more information on the demonic units and the mention of another demon besides Beelzebub, so starting with Goetic Knight, sorcerers trained in the Ars Goetia. These fearsome heretics stride through no man's land, protected by their satanic pacts. Ars Goetia can be translated to Art of Witchcraft or Art of the Occult, by the way. I really like the design of these guys, clothed in a rusted armor with long limbs, ending in metal spikes and needles. Then we have a special kind of unit, and I'm not really sure if I can show this here, but... Heretic Berserker. Before battle, these warriors work themselves into a bloodthirsty frenzy. They perform sickening rituals and commit unspeakable acts for their dark masters. They move with supernatural speed and strength, becoming whirlwinds of destruction as they shriek their orgiastic battle cries. Judging by their design, I think it's very clear how these girls function, or how they reach that frenzy exactly. I bet they pledge their loyalty to the demon prince Asmodeus, the deadly sin of lust. Now here's a funny unit, Artillery Witch. They stalk the battlefields hurling ordnance, assemble in the death factories of Hell's third circle. They're completely mute and no one has ever seen their faces, some even question if they are living. And there are even tales that they too were manufactured in Hell. As you can see, their main trick is to throw a whole bomb to their opponent, using either magnetism or telekinesis. And speaking of Hell's circles, it turns out that we have some depictions of some of the paladins this whole time. The paladins of the 3rd and 4th circle, to be precise. Okay, back to the hellish horrors. Ixodes Excurvitor, or in common language, Thick Guard. Only the strongest and most resilient can survive the blessings of Beelzebub, only to serve as bodyguards to the nobility of the Black Riot, infected with the parasites of their lord. Another thing I forgot to mention were the heralds of Beelzebub. They are the vanguard in any of the cult's assaults, disgusting amalgamations of bodies given the form of a fly. The eye-watering hum of their wings strikes terror in any defender. They wield discarded weapons, infected with the same maggots of their bodies. We also have some loose illustrations like the Angel of Cancer. I'm very sure that you can guess what this girl does. And the Priest of the Black Pulpit. This design is very cool, I love the goetic symbol in flames. They're the ones who guide their choristers on their ritualistic suicides. Now, as I said, we also have the mention of other entity. I'm not sure if they're referring to Satan or Leviathan, but this entity is only known as the Beast, which I'm very sure that it's Satan, but I can't tell. Mongrel Supplicants, worshippers of the Beast. When deemed ready, they are infected by blessed parasites that fell off the Beast's lords. These sticks are full to the brim with the Lord's transformative blood. Then, the supplicants begin their change into misshapen horrors. As I said, the background of these things is not very fleshed out. We also have the assault werewolves that act as scouts to clear the battlefield. They resemble werewolves wielding a rusted armor ending in saw blades to make their way through barbed wire. We could assume that these are associated with the same beast as the mongrel or another devil related to hellhounds, but this is anyone's guesses. Now, to wrap this up, we have one unit that leaves us with more questions than answers. This is only named as Child of Baphomet, one of countless offsprings of the fecund Baphomet, who, being a hermaphrodite, gives birth to its own children. A hellish abomination of flesh with godlike features and a spear blazing in fire. I'm not very sure of the role that this demon has in the setting, but Baphomet was an entity which the Templars were accused of worshipping during the Crusades, in the real life. So we can assume that in this universe, the entity is real, of course, and it is likely what tempted the Templars to open the gates of hell once they took Jerusalem. But in essence, that's all I have for today. Again, thank you all very much for the support that the last video got, I really appreciate it, and I apologize for any confusion I might have caused with the title. I just thought that sounded cool, and I didn't really pay that much about the crosses or anything. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below what do you guys think. Also, I'm open to suggestions of what would you like for me to cover here on the channel. Your feedback is really appreciated. Also, remember to leave a like and subscribe, that really helps out the channel, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!